Hello and welcome to the UTB Blogcast Special Edition. With us today we have our normal cast of Brad, Dave, Roy, and Alpha with myself, and we have some special guests. I'm going to go ahead and let our first guest, Marty Beard, take it away. He has a few things he wants to say. Marty?
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Erica, and thanks, everybody. Thanks for having me on. Hi, I'm Marty Beard, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer of BlackBerry. And I wanted to take maybe a couple of minutes and just update folks on our strategy and where we're at, and then love to dive into questions. I know a lot of you follow us really closely, and this is a really significant turnaround. It's a very intense turnaround. People use that term, I think, pretty loosely, and it's hard. It's hard. It's a lot of work, but it's also exciting. And we're really, what are we doing? So we're, the first part of it was really just very, very focused on BlackBerry financials, because you can't talk about strategy or new products if people don't think you're going to be around. And we did a lot of really hard work over the last few years to get the company really stable. And financially stable, and with a good amount of money in the bank, and which allows us to do the things we need to do. So that's gone well. You're never really done with that, but I think we feel really good about what we've done. This is kind of the boring stuff in the background that a company's got to go through. But if you don't do that, like I said, you show up at a customer, you say, "Hey, let's talk about strategy," and then they look at you like, "Well, are you going to be around?" So the answer is absolutely, we're going to be around. So then the next part was, okay, what does BlackBerry really do well? What can we leverage, and what are we going to focus on? And it's pretty obvious that our amazing background in security and our amazing software capability, because for those of you that follow the tech industry really closely, and I've been in it for forever, at the end of the day, software always wins out, right? It's software that drives hardware. It's software that always wins out. BlackBerry is amazing at software and amazing, obviously, at security. So we said, okay, let's really make sure that we're going to dominate the mobile security space, and let's really invest in that. So we bought, I don't know how many, let's call it 5 or 6 companies over the last 18, 24 months, like Good Technologies and Ad Hoc and SecuSmart and Encryption, and a lot of companies, and we bought them so we can to fill in some gaps and sort of look over the hill and say, okay, we're gonna really dominate this space. So I think we feel good about that. Yesterday was a really big day for us, and it was a significant announcement where we basically said, okay, here's how all of this has come together, and here's what we think is going to be a new stack, a new critical part of any company going forward. We call it the enterprise of things, and what we're phrasing as BlackBerrys Secure. So BlackBerrys Secure is the conglomeration of technology that we've now integrated into a stack that every company is going to need to not only manage mobile devices, but also manage things, wearables, sensors, whatever's connected, right? And we believe, just like there's a standard of database, you might think of an Oracle or IBM, just like there's emerging standards of cloud platforms like AWS, we think there's going to be a standard of enterprise of things, which is going to be BlackBerry. So that's the future. That's what we're focused on. And this is getting overwhelming focus for the company. It doesn't matter if we're talking about licensing our smartphone software, I'm sure we'll get into that, or building our enterprise stack. Anyway, that's what we're focused on. So the company's really excited to be just laser focused on this, but the broader market is still catching up, is my point. So I don't want to dominate here, so I'll stop. But I just wanted to make sure you guys, got a chance to hear that.
Yeah, that's great news. And hey, dominate away.
Exactly.
It's all good.
It's business, right?
Yeah.
Let's dominate.
That's why we get up in the morning.
Right.
Yeah. So what do you think? Should we dive into a few questions?
We do have a few topics for you, Marty. The first one that we really wanted to talk about is the one that the fans seem to be most focused on, and they really want to know what BlackBerry's plan is with the future of BlackBerry 10. Is there anything that you can tell us about that OS and what the development plan is for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Look, obviously, BB10 is an amazing operating system, right? It's phenomenal and highly secure and awesome user interface, etc. And for us, it's really important for our regulated industry customers. It's heavily used in government, as you guys know, heavily used in financial services, heavily used in healthcare, heavily used in like law firms, accounting firms, professional services firms, etc. And those folks care about security, which is why the most recent announcement, which I know some people looked at it and said, well, what else? Well, it's not a trivial thing to get so-called NIAP certified, which is what we've done. And that was an overwhelming focus of the software team to make sure that we meet that so we can then meet our regulated customers' needs. So that's the latest iteration in BB10. We have not talked about the roadmap going forward, but what I can say is that we're completely dedicated to those regulated customers. We're going to provide them what they need, and BB10 is something that they rely very heavily on. So stay tuned on that front. But the latest public part of what we've done on BB10 is the most recent announcement that you guys, I'm sure, all saw that.
Definitely.
Yeah. So Marty, as it relates to the companies that are licensed to produce BlackBerry branded devices, we all want to know what kind of timeline are we looking at for these devices to come to market?
Oh, okay.
And
Mm-hmm.
And what types of devices will they be that actually come to market?
Okay, yeah, great question. Let me just describe that strategy a little bit so people understand. I think at the end of this, what you're going to understand is it's very likely there'll be more BlackBerry devices in the market than there are today. So again, as we're focused on being and becoming a software company, right?
Yes.
And when I say that, I'm talking about software that would go in a smartphone as well as software on a server for a company, right? Well, just broadly speaking, or software in a car. I think you guys know that we have an incredible strength in connected cars. So the licensing strategy is saying, okay, look, we've announced that we are not in the hardware space, right? We're not going to manufacture. We're not going to do that. We're going to focus on software. And in certain situations, if it's the right partner, we will license the BlackBerry software, the brand, and we will then enable and work very closely with that company, that hardware manufacturer, to actually produce a BlackBerry device, market the device, sell the device, etc. And then BlackBerry, we're the BlackBerry inside. We're software inside, and our brand is on the phone. And we are obviously highly motivated to work with that partner to make sure that that phone gets out and is very successful. That's actively underway right now with the joint venture, the 3 companies that came together in Indonesia. They wanted a enterprise class phone. They wanted a secure phone. BlackBerry, obviously, check. And we're working very closely with them now. So this is obviously imminent as we head into 2017. We are actively engaged with other partners. I can't on this call announce names, but stay tuned. And there's a lot of interest in our new strategy, a lot of interest in our software, a lot of interest in our brand, and we're pretty excited about the new shift. So to answer your question, definitely 2017. Then you're going to say, well, that's 12 months. So like, give me a month, and I will not do that. But I can say 2017. Stay tuned. But there's a lot of, if you're the company that licensed the software, you're actively working to get that phone out to market, obviously. So stay tuned. So I think people misunderstood, or it's a little bit different. There's a value chain involved in getting a smartphone out to market, right? There's software development, there's hardware development, there's marketing, there's sales. There's a lot of things that need to happen. all we announced is that, look, the hardware part of this, that's not our focus. Our focus is on the software. I think of it as, this is just an analogy, but and it's a different industry, but you think of like Intel Inside, right? You know, Intel Inside. This is kind of like BlackBerry Inside, right? And in this case, we're inside the smartphone, but we're also inside cars. We're inside other connected things. We're going to be inside all kinds of things that need security, which is what we're awesome at.
Just to clarify, Marty, just because we hear all these different stories running around in like BBM channels and Twitter and whatnot,
right? You
guys are partnering with these partners. You're not just selling your name, collecting a check, and walking away. You do have
no, absolutely. I mean, we couldn't. By the way, we would never do that because the brand of BlackBerry is so important, and the brand of BlackBerry is so good and so associated with enterprise class and security, et cetera. We're not just going to go work with somebody we don't believe, you know, meets the right criteria. So, and then secondly, you don't just like hand over some code and say, you know, here you go. We got to work very, very closely with the partners. So John Chen, our CEO, is very selective. And the only one that we've announced publicly so far is, of course, the Indonesian JV. But to answer your question, yes, very, very closely, very closely. And then going forward, I don't know, I'm into analogies, and these aren't always, people sometimes misinterpret, and, you know, an analogy would be, you know, you walk into a store to buy something from Disney, and you know what to expect, right? You know what to expect with, you know, in terms of the product, and you have an expectation in your mind, even though you may be in a retailer that's not, quote, a Disney store, right? You have an expectation. It's similar here, right? People have an expectation of the quality of a BlackBerry device. We get that. And, you know, we're going to make sure that we meet that, and that's met for the customer's expectations. Is that a long enough answer?
Perfect.
Okay.
That's a perfect
I could go on.
A perfect answer. Perfect answer.
Got a lot of coffee. All right.
Well, Marty, then speaking of software development and whatnot, curious to hear, you know, your plans continuing on with Google's Android OS. I got to tell you, I didn't think I would enjoy it as much as I am. I've had a Priv and now a DTEC 60, and I'm really impressed with what you've baked in there.
Thank you.
I guess I'm curious to know, you know, what kind of roadmap, or not a roadmap, that's not fair maybe, but what kind of plans you have for carrying on in that regard, what your plans are for, say, Nougat or 7. I hate saying those names, but, and also curious if you can talk about it, why you'd make a decision about, you know, not letting certain things out to the market, such as the BlackBerry keyboard to other users on other platforms.
Right. How do you know that won't come out?
Well, there you go.
So
you know, here's the chance. Yeah.
Right. Well, I think let me break it down in a couple of ways. So we do work very close with Google, and the first thing is it has to meet our security standards. Before we came out with Priv, we worked a really long time on securing Android in a way that BlackBerry can look our customers in the eye and say, this meets the same level that you're used to, right? This is as secure. And we worked pretty hard on coming out with some other applications like DTEC on, you know, the actual DTEC application on the phone. And, you know, the first iteration of that was more just visual and kind of, but then it gets a little deeper where you can actually start acting on what you're learning, et cetera. So anyway, we did those things and we continue to do those things. So the number one is it's got to be as secure as we expect. So we work closely with them around that. It's got to meet that standard. Otherwise, why would we go to market with it? Otherwise, it's just another Android phone.
Right.
And that's not our interest. That's number one. Then number two is, what you guys probably aren't as aware of is that we partner with them very closely around small to medium-sized businesses, so Android for Work, and working with them in terms of, okay, how do BlackBerry and Google help me, the small to mid-sized business get secure, get my applications, get my mobile users managed tightly, the applications that they're using managed tightly, et cetera. So we do a lot of regional actual marketing events with Google, where we go out and we partner together, and we're showing the enterprise how they can leverage both BlackBerry and Google in a way that helps them run their business. And then going forward, no change. I mean, we have a bunch of folks who work very closely with them. I have a team underneath me focused on partners. That obviously Google's one of our important partners. They work really closely with their partnering team, and we'll continue to do that.
So would we expect to see this, get through NIAP as well?
Get through that's a good question. I'll have to. I'm not a NIAP expert, but anything we would go through the same process that we go through now to get NIAP certification on any devices that we bring out.
Right.
Which is I don't know how aware you are of it. It's a very, very intensive process, right? But we would follow that obviously for anything that we release.
Right.
Cool.
Interesting.
First of all, sorry for my bad English. I'm from Israel, so
oh no, it's not bad.
It's not my native. It's not my native language.
Okay.
In the last 2-3 years, BlackBerry are focusing on the IoT world, and it's very interesting. And what I want to ask is, first of all, when we will see more IoT products, software products going to the market, and if I want to buy a car that powered by QNX or every other device that's secured by BlackBerry, how do I know that my pot or something else is secure to use?
Great question. Because that thing will be BlackBerrys Secure. So you guys are going to hear more and more about this phrase, and I'm going to need your guys' help and your community's help on making sure that everybody understands it. But BlackBerrys Secure, right? So you will see on that thing, let's say it's a camera, let's say it's a drone, let's say it's a sensor, let's say it's you will see that just like my earlier analogy of, you grab a PC and it says Intel inside, in this case, you have that connected thing, and it is BlackBerrys Secure. And that'll be obvious to the buyer. And why will that matter? Well, it will give them the comfort that it meets that standard of security that only BlackBerry can bring, that we've been bringing, for decades. So we're totally psyched about the trend of Internet of Things. We actually think about it a little bit differently, which is there's kind of the common view of so-called IoT, but remember, we're really focused on selling to companies. And it's really an enterprise of things. It's an enterprise of things, right? And the first thing was and continues to be the mobile device. You first need to manage and secure that mobile device. And a lot of companies still have not gotten their arms around that, right? Like, how do you manage that? We manage BlackBerrys, we manage iOS devices, we manage Android devices, Windows devices, we manage laptops, we manage all of that. And that's still the bulk of what enterprises are really trying to manage. But enterprises now have connections into everything, right? Their employees might have on wearables that are connecting in. They might have, connected office elements. Wherever you have a Wi-Fi connection or any kind of a connection, you have exposure, right? So it needs to be secure. So, and then if you really want to talk about a really big thing, then you talk about a car. And I think you guys know that we absolutely are a market leader in managing the world of connected cars, which is moving into semi-autonomous driving and eventually autonomous driving, right? We are already in, over 60 million cars. We announced a very significant increase in our relationship with Ford. and stay tuned. The CES show in Las Vegas, which is the big, consumer technology show, which has really become more of a automotive show. Stay tuned on that. That's coming up in the early January, so in a few weeks. We will be all over that, and we'll have a lot to say in terms of what we're doing in the automobile sector. So anyway, to answer your specific question, there will be branding that we're coming out with, and we actually used the phrase, and we started talking about it yesterday, the phrase BlackBerrys Secure, and stay tuned. And like I said, we will, to your early comments about UT Blogs and the great stuff you guys do, we'll come out to you and ask for your help to make sure that we get that out.
So my next car, I hope to be a BlackBerry Secure car.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Now, to continue my question, I'm living in Israel, like I said before, and my country is a country that focused on security. I think everybody knows from the news. You even bought the formerly known Watchdogs, that now it's BlackBerry Workspaces.
Correct.
I even visited their offices in Israel.
Okay.
And I'm very surprised every time that businesses, enterprises are not using BlackBerry, not using ad hoc. Cities are not using ad hoc. And when we will see ad hoc in more markets, when we will see BlackBerry's enterprise, BlackBerry Secure in more countries, especially like in countries like Israel or any other country that need those software.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I'm sure many of you have been through acquisitions, and you have to go through that period of really integrating the technology and then making sure that you get the sales channel well understood, et cetera. And you have to work through that, which we have. Ad hoc has a very, very strong presence in government. So a lot of government entities, cities, et cetera, use ad hoc. We just announced, I think last week, a French
in Paris.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So to answer your question, we have not been as focused on expanding ad hoc's presence directly into the enterprise, as well as other public, like for example, UCLA, University of California in Los Angeles uses it. And so we're starting to expand our marketing and our sales effort now. Probably should have done it earlier, but it took a while, as I said, to kind of integrate the technology, really understand the power of ad hoc, which is amazing technology, and then to more broadly market it. As we head into next year, there's much more sales up. There's much more understanding of how to position ad hoc, and then expanding our sales motion there. It is really good technology, obviously very in sync with our overall security story. And we've seen it, in action, like at UCLA when they had that tragedy months ago, and it makes you proud to see it in action and helping people and getting out the information they need to get so they can be safe, et cetera. But that, and then you also mentioned Watchdogs, workspaces. That is fantastic technology. I'm not sure if you guys have used it, but that is something that more companies should do. Like, don't just attach that file of financials and send it over, Gmail, for example. Don't. What are you doing, right? Use and let's not use something like Box. Let's make sure that we have actual secure encryption. The digital rights management, the whole, everything that you need to really make sure that when I send something from myself to you, that it's safe, it's encrypted, it's tracked. I know if you've changed it, et cetera. So more and more people are understanding that and starting to use it. So that's another great piece of technology.
Yeah. BlackBerry Workspace will be available for regular consumers, I think?
That's a good question.
Because I will drop Box and Dropbox immediately.
Okay, all right. That's good. That's good to know.
Yeah, I can only imagine not just the technologies having to merge through acquisition, but getting all those human beings in line too.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
Way too much fun.
Exactly. And it's, you know, I think a lot of people, you know, there's a ton of new talent that's come into BlackBerry in the last couple of years. And which is fantastic. Right. And and Ad Hoc, great example. Watchdogs, great example. Good Technologies, great example. You know, we bought a cybersecurity consulting company out of the UK, encryption, and so-called white hackers that brought a lot of talent into the company as well. Anyway, so that's exciting. But yeah, you need to make space for all the new talent and move forward.
Yeah. You know, I was going to do a blog on this last night, but then a dog with a curly tail went by and I did something else. But anyway, I just happened to be looking at career opportunities at BlackBerry, and there was a ton of jobs opening all over the world, really, you know, California, Florida, Germany, all over the place. So it's you know, that's a huge sign to anybody that wants to bother looking that you guys are turned around and growing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We all those locations you mentioned are we'd love to bring in new talent. I last week I was in the UK, right outside London, opening up our new office in Maidenhead. It's an amazing new office, just totally vibrant energy, and a lot of recruiting going on around that. We've got a fairly new office in the Bay Area because a lot of our acquisitions brought in Silicon Valley talent, so we brought those together. So yeah, there's a lot of hiring going on, and which is great.
Hey Marty, one of the most exciting things I saw out of yesterday's announcement was the fact that the BlackBerry name carries through everything.
Yeah. Good.
You know,
I'm glad you picked up on that.
Yeah, because I mean that these companies are using these services, and now they're going to see it's BlackBerry. Like, my big concern is the community, and what we tend to see in the community is there seems to be a disconnect. Like, you'll hear news come out from BlackBerry, and then somehow it gets twisted, and then you guys have to come out and make a secondary announcement to ensure that you know, your actual announcement was made.
Okay.
I'm just wondering if there's something we could do to kind of get closer BlackBerry in the community, because I really do think that our community of fans, not UTB, but the BlackBerry community, could be promoting.
No, I absolutely, I agree. I think we have really, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but we have really amped up recently our emphasis around the BlackBerry brand. We're getting a little feistier. You know, if somebody attacks us on a blog, I got a little ticked off by a gentleman in Canada that came out with an article about, you know, don't let your kids grow up to be BlackBerry. It was very, I think the word I used, it was very snarky. And you know, there's a lot of snarky things on social networks, but that one really bugged me. And you know, it was just misinformed, right? So we said, look, let's respond. We also had similar situation in the automotive industry, and you know, so we're getting a lot more aggressive in terms of making sure that people understand what we're saying, and then we're getting more just consistent. And it's all about BlackBerry. It's BlackBerry. Right? People said, oh, you know, you bought Good Technologies. Are you going to change the name of the technology towards good? No, it's BlackBerry. So as Roy pointed out, you see BlackBerry. I'm sorry, Brad pointed out, you see BlackBerry. It's all about BlackBerry. So the community is phenomenal. It's one of the strongest brands in the world, literally. It's one of the largest social communities that any brand has. And here's the challenge. It's built up over decades around the device, right? Which is great. So for my position, it's like, okay, I need that community to understand that we're moving more and more towards software. Does not mean that we're abandoning the device. In fact, as we talked about earlier, you may see more BlackBerry devices on the market. But the company's really starting to focus on this enterprise of things. That's really where we're starting to focus. And it's an exciting space, right? It's a new, relevant, exciting space. So we need your help on understanding what's the best way to get that message out to the broader community, what's the best way to engage that community around what we're doing. How do we get people working with us like they are today around that? I can tell you as an executive at BlackBerry, you have those moments where you put out some amazing news and then somebody says, when's the next BB10 device coming out? And then you say, well, can I talk about the news that I just put out about, this incredible win with Ford? And they say, oh, that's great. That's great. By the way, when's the next BB10 device coming out? Right. So, and you just want to come back to, I think we just need to keep saying it and learn how to work with the community. We love their passion, love their affinity with the brand, need them to understand where the company's going. Maybe not everybody will embrace it. That's okay, I understand that. Like I said, we're going through a transformation, but very interested in working with the broader community out there. Just to keep on this for a second, because I know I'm talking on for a while, but you are going to see us get even more aggressive on BlackBerry, but a lot of consistency around software and what we're doing around in the software space, okay? And we're also going to continue to be pretty feisty, just in terms of if somebody's coming after BlackBerry and it's just not warranted, it's just wrong, right? We're gonna respond to that and make sure that people get educated and understand. We were a little passive, now we're not. Passivity has gone away, right? So anyway, so there's a lot of things happening in the next quarter, over the next few months and going forward. And it's going to be an exciting time. So yeah, we're all, any ideas that, for example, you guys have or about how we can do that, we're all ears. We'd love to hear it.
That's great. Good to hear. It's it's a human thing, people have this, phone and they can touch it and they can feel it. So they have, some people have passion about that and it's harder to have passion about something that you can't really touch and feel yourself. We've been really conscious of promoting, all of the things that BlackBerry does and not just handsets.
Right.
So yeah,
no, I appreciate that, and totally understand, Dave, what you're saying about it's a very personal thing. I have my Classic, I have my Passport, I have my Leap, I have my D-Tech. When I go through airport security, they think I'm some. They pull me off to the side. Why does this guy have 9 phones?
Because I can.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Because I'm right. And so I trust me. I totally get that. But at the end of the day, I have to, everybody, you got to remind yourself that within that is software. Mm-hmm. It's really software and that's why so many people love BB10 because it's an amazing software package, right? It's so clean, so simple, and it's so secure. So anyway, so we totally get that. But remember, our enterprise customers, large government, large bank, large hospital, if I could share with everybody the customer list at BlackBerry, you would say, wow, right? It's the Fortune 2000, basically. They need us to help manage and secure BlackBerry devices, but they also need us to help manage and secure iOS devices, Android devices, Windows devices, Apple laptops, Dell laptops, so that's the reality of the environment. And I think all of us would want BlackBerry software in there, right? Managing it. I think we're all supportive of that. So anyway, that's what we're doing. But the interesting thing is that there's this continued fixation on the mobile software space. And I'm sure you guys saw, IDC coming out with their latest the growth's fairly flat, and you can even see, like Apple starting to slow down a bit and so forth. And BlackBerry, to a certain extent, we sort of looked past that and said, look, there's this enterprise of things. There's an IoT movement afoot. It's real. I mean, every time I read about the number of new internet, the number of new connections, new things, is absolutely, it goes from billions to billions. It's, why don't we just say it's a lot, right? And then the breaches, the number of breaches are actually on a percentage basis outpacing, right? So this is real stuff, right? This needs to be secured so the overall industry can actually benefit from this trend. Otherwise, it's going to stop, and people are going to say it's not secure, right? So we need to solve that problem.
Sounds good.
Heading back to what I was saying before Dave jumped in, like
heading back to BB10 devices.
No.
No, the problem I see with the disconnect between BlackBerry and the community is prior there was this, and I think it was a false sense of connection between the former management of BlackBerry and the community, and that we had all these leaks, and that wasn't coming from management. I mean, honestly, I feel like the current group of management that we have at BlackBerry is much more open to the community than the prior guys. I really get that feeling, because you're here speaking to us. You guys are always on Inside BlackBerry. You're out in the public and you're speaking to us, the community.
Right.
But I see that a lot of our community just doesn't see that. Instead, they want, the leaks from the old days that I totally understand why we don't have with the company in transition.
Right.
There's a couple of things that I think could go a long way to get the community backing a little bit more, instead of, it seems like they want to go back to the old way, which was not a good way.
Right.
It just wasn't.
Right. Yeah. I think, well, it's like life, right? Like things change, and, you need to kind of move with the change. But yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. When I first joined, I was surprised by a lot of the so-called leaks. By the way, many of which are just not accurate, but still there's that, and there's a lot of fixation on it. It's not really healthy one way or the other, right? There's kind of a race to see who knows something and so forth. But that seems to have slowed down. But I totally agree with you. And that's, like I said, we're open to do, and I in particular, to do whatever's needed to address the community and new ways of doing it like this, and absolutely open to that. But also, a lot of messaging is just consistency and frequency, right? So we're just going to keep saying what we're doing, and hopefully the community will embrace that. It's, by the way, if the community can become ambassadors of cybersecurity, that would be awesome, right? So it's not just you're an ambassador of a device that you love and that we love, but actually you're an ambassador of cybersecurity. You're actually highlighting and modeling and showing why that's important and how to do it. And you're using BlackBerry technology to do it. So we want to shift it a bit towards cybersecurity, because this is a really real thing. So if that big community, it became like security evangelists, like cybersecurity evangelists, privacy evangelists. Like privacy is a emotional, personal topic that we all can relate to. And we're all in the middle of this, right, in this world, right? And we want to help people be more, be able to control their privacy, control their security on whatever it is. So this, I would love that passion, and so for people to really get behind those threads and those themes, and work with BlackBerry on leading the way around that. So we need to give the tools, and we need to help the community do that, but we also need the community to kind of say, okay, I'll get on board with that. Let's go, right?
We all need to remember that BlackBerry is a security company from the beginning, since the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
And people need to know that security is beyond all. And some fans are really not going along with this title of BlackBerry going security.
Yeah,
but
it's always been there though.
But I feel safer when I use a BlackBerry device or any other product by BlackBerry.
Yeah. Thank you. I see Dave is dancing.
Dave likes to dance.
He has music in his head pretty much all the time.
Hey, I don't want to run you off and I'm definitely not going to, but I want to just say, because I will get strung up if I don't, if there's anything you can do after this call to get video cross-platform calling on BBM with BB10, that would be awesome.
Okay.
That's just for my own safety, I'm telling you that.
Just
Okay.
walk down the hall and push that button, Marty.
Okay, I understand. I'm aware of that desire. So
The heat, yeah.
Like new Android 7 on Priv and DDEC will be awesome.
Okay.
And Marty, I just wanted to share with you, we have a comment in our chat room. We have a listener that is saying, we appreciate Marty's clear and honest talk. BlackBerry is alive and kicking and here for the long run. So I just thought you'd like
thank
to.
you. Whoever absolutely.
That is Rico. He's one of our readers. He's watching in live. So.
All right, great. Thank you, Rico. And absolutely. Yeah, no, we absolutely are. We are. We are. Well, what else, guys? Anything else you want to chat about, or?
I'm pretty sure Brad will sit here and talk to you all day if you let him.
I would just sit here and just, ask to be your friend. But I think Roy already touched on it. I know that we've got all this enterprise software that was just announced yesterday, the new branding, the new everything with it. Like, he touched on getting it to the private people. Like, I want the new watchdogs. I want that. I want to get rid of my Dropbox. I want to get rid of my box. Like, and I know that there's certain people within our own group that had the BlackBerry Protect, and now it's gone to the BBM Protect. And they're saying that it's a little more difficult to get that with the new BBM Enterprise.
Yeah, one thing I'm going to do is we have a much bigger focus now on our what we call our developer community, and putting a lot of effort into that. We should expand that beyond kind of traditional enterprise developers, right? It should be a broader. So if you're part of that program, you get early access, right? Quote, personal access is, I think, the word used, like a person into the private sector. Get that out there more broadly. So I'm gonna take that action. And we just had our first developer conference in New York City a few weeks back, and invited a bunch of people into. We actually held it at the NASDAQ building, and it was great. It was just fantastic to see people like coding live and just building applications on BlackBerry, et cetera, across everything that we do. And we came out of that and we realized we really need to broaden this out, right? We need to get more people involved and more access. So I think things like workspaces and getting that more broadly accessible to folks. You mentioned BBM Enterprise, same thing. We need to get that out. So I'll take that action. Okay. And again, it's this broader theme of how to connect with the community and get them, give them the tools that they need. But okay, well, I can probably do a last question, or
I have one.
Okay.
You said earlier BlackBerry is now focusing mainly on governments, big enterprises, businesses. Is there any plan for small businesses, like family businesses that can be a BlackBerry users?
Yeah, and don't read me wrong. It's kind of like if you look at our total revenue, let's say that roughly 2/3 of that is coming from those huge verticals that I mentioned. Government, obviously, financial services, healthcare, legal and professional services. But but obviously BlackBerry does a lot of work with companies across all different sectors and all different sizes. Everything that we do is cloud enabled. So that small to medium sized business, they're not going to put a bunch of software on premise. They're gonna leverage it in the cloud. That was something that John Chen, when he came in, said everything's got to be cloud enabled. It is. So we're starting to see that's really broadening the size of the companies buying our products. So we'll keep focused on that. But at the same time, it's the most demanding customers are the ones in those highly regulated industries. And if you can serve their needs well, then you can serve the needs of everybody. basically, right? And so we're never going to lose that focus. But let me, yeah, go ahead, Dave.
One wonders, what the uptake would be in the, in the near future, if there was an opportunity for individuals and very small companies to do a BES type subscription.
Yeah.
Because when you want, the importance, like you say, of security and privacy cannot help but go up.
Right.
In these days and times, and I wonder what the uptake would be for even individuals just to go, you know what, I want to sign on to being more private, more secure.
Yeah, no, and maybe this is a good way for me to, but I think that is a great idea, and I think it's a theme that came out of this talk, which has been a great talk, by the way. And let me take that back and work on it. I think it's about broadening. So there's the understanding of where we're going. There's getting that message out accurately and consistently, and then there's actually allowing people to play with the technology and start coming on board with the technology more broadly. So that piece, that is not done, right? And so I need to work on that. But let me just because I'm going to have to. Let me just, this. I'm so glad that you guys, the sort of mini campaign that you put out, and I thought it was great. I think Erica was spearheading that, and I appreciate it, and I look forward to working with you folks. You should really, we spent a lot of time, think through ideas that will help engage the broader community and help people actually come with us on this mission of cybersecurity. We're all ears on that, right? And would love the community to embrace BlackBerry as we head that way. And then I'll just say, stay tuned. There's a lot of fun stuff coming, and I look forward to working with you guys. Thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Marty.
Thank you very much.
Marty.
We really appreciate that you are here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you,
Marty.
Have a good day.
Thanks a
Bye-bye.
million, Marty.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And let's go ahead and call it, because none of us have anything nearly as interesting to say as Marty.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to end it. So
we will see you next week for our regular blogcast.
Yeah. Have a great weekend, people.
Have a great weekend. Good morning to you, Americans.
Good morning.
Good morning. In my country.